Right. So you're leading an educational facility, you're a hiring manager, and you're dealing with some pretty unique staffing
Oh,
challenges.
yeah, definitely unique to this world for sure.
Exactly. So that's what we're diving deep into today. And we've got a great resource to help us out with this. It's called Strategic Staffing for Educational Facilities, a comprehensive guide. So really think of this conversation as like a crash course in building a solid and like resilient staffing model for, your school, your district, wherever you are.
Yeah, and one of the first things that really stood out to me in this guide is how they tackle the whole cyclical nature of staffing in education, right? Because it's not static.
Yeah.
You have those crazy busy periods at the beginning of a term or semester, and then things kind of shift as the year goes on.
Yeah, it's almost like this built-in like surge and ebb. And yeah, it might be predictable, but that doesn't mean it's easy to manage at all.
Right, and then on top of that, you've got all the complexities of credentialing to think about state licensing, background checks,
Hmm.
specialized certifications for different roles. I mean, it can be a real headache.
Oh, for sure. A total maze. And this guide really emphasizes that it's not enough to just like react to these requirements as they pop up.
Oh, yeah.
You need to build in systems to manage and track everything proactively.
Couldn't agree more. And let's face it, budgets are always a concern in education. So I really appreciate how the guide offers some creative and cost-conscious strategies to make it all work.
Oh, definitely. That's huge. And something else it really highlights is the importance of building a diverse staff. And this isn't just about checking a box, it genuinely contributes to a richer learning environment for students.
Absolutely. It's essential. And the guide gives a great framework for intentionally weaving diversity into your hiring practices, all while staying on top of those must-have regulatory demands.
So let's jump into the first big piece of the puzzle planning for the academic year. It's
Yeah.
not as simple as just waiting for a vacancy to pop up and then scrambling to fill it, right?
No, not at all. I think one of the key takeaways here is moving away from that reactive mindset and embracing a proactive approach that's tied directly to your academic calendar. It's about anticipating your needs way ahead of time.
So instead of waiting until the summer to think about fall staffing, you're starting the process much earlier, like back in the spring, maybe?
Exactly. You have to. And the guide stresses the importance of a really detailed needs assessment. And we're not just talking about a simple headcount here,
Right,
right?
a much deeper dive.
Exactly. You need to look at historical enrollment trends. Are numbers going up, down, staying steady? What new programs are in the pipeline? What are your big strategic goals for the year? It's all about forecasting those staffing needs with the big picture in mind.
So you've got to think about your teachers, of course, but also all the support roles and any specialized positions you might have.
Exactly. And a key point the guide makes is that the timeline for filling different roles can vary dramatically, like recruiting a qualified special education teacher or a school psychologist that often takes a lot longer than filling a general education teaching position. So your planning has to reflect that.
One size doesn't fit all when it comes to planning, that's for sure. So what about when the unexpected happens? Things don't always go according to plan. The guide talks a lot about the importance of contingency planning.
Yeah, that's all about building resilience into your staffing model.
Yeah.
So what happens if enrollment suddenly spikes or a key program changes direction or if you have unexpected staff departures? The guide offers a few strategies like cross-training your existing staff to be more flexible, creating a really reliable substitute teacher pool, and even building relationships with staffing agencies so you have that support when you need it.
Those all sound like really smart moves, and the guide also talks about creating a detailed staffing calendar, almost like you're mapping out a big project.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. The idea is to work backward from those key academic dates. The start of each term exam period's program launches and create a clear timeline for all your recruiting, credentialing, and onboarding activities. And don't forget to build in some buffer time because, things happen.
Murphy's Law of hiring, for sure. One thing I found really interesting is how the guide links professional development to your overall staffing strategy.
Right. What's fascinating there is the idea that investing in the growth of your current team through professional development can actually create pathways for advancement within your school or district so people see those opportunities to move up.
Yeah.
And that can boost retention because they're not looking to go elsewhere for career growth. And it can also lessen your reliance on external recruitment for those more specialized roles. You're essentially growing your own talent in-house.
That's a great way to put it. So we've talked about planning now. Let's move into building what the guide calls a multifaceted staffing model. So it's not just about having a core group of permanent staff, right?
Right. It's about being more strategic and going beyond that single approach to create a system that's adaptable and resilient. And you do that by using different types of staffing components to build a more well-rounded team.
So you've got your core staff, the permanent teachers, administrators, and those essential support personnel. The guide really emphasizes how important this group is.
Absolutely. They're the foundation. They provide stability, institutional knowledge, and that long-term commitment. Investing in their recruitment, their professional development, and especially their retention pays off big time in terms of quality and reducing those turnover costs.
Makes sense. Then there are what the guide calls variable staffing components. What kinds of roles fall into this category?
Think about those part-time specialists. Maybe they teach a specific subject a few days a week, or seasonal support staff you need during peak periods like admissions or enrollment, or maybe limited-term instructional roles tied to a specific grant or project you're working on.
This variable component lets you scale your staffing up or down depending on your needs so you're not overspending when you don't have to. That's a great way to manage those peaks and troughs we talked about earlier. And of course, there's the essential role of substitute and on-call staff. Can't forget about them.
Oh, absolutely. They're vital for ensuring that instruction and support continue even when regular staff are absent. The guide really emphasizes the need for a well-organized substitute pool that includes both generalists who can cover a range of subjects and specialists who can step into those more specific positions. And keeping those lines of communication open with your substitutes and making them feel valued, that's key to making sure they're available and committed.
And the guide also talks about strategic partnerships with staffing agencies. When does that approach make the most sense?
Staffing agencies can be a great resource, especially when you're trying to fill those niche or hard-to-fill positions. You know, the ones where the pool of qualified candidates is smaller. They can also handle a lot of the initial credential verification and background check stuff, and they can be a lifesaver when you have unexpected shortages or those periods of peak demand. It's about leveraging their expertise and their reach.
All right, so we've assembled this awesome, diverse team now. The guide dives into credential management and compliance, which sounds pretty crucial in education.
It's absolutely essential. I mean, with all the federal, state, and local regulations around educational staffing, robust management systems aren't optional. They're a must-have. It's not just about legal compliance. It's about ensuring the safety and well-being of your students.
And the guide talks a lot about these comprehensive credential tracking systems. What are some of the key things they should be able to do?
Well, ideally, they should keep a complete and up-to-date record of every credential certification and background check for every single staff member. And this is key. They should also have automated alerts for expiring credentials. So you're staying ahead of renewals, and integration with your HR systems is a big plus too. It just streamlines everything.
So it's not just a digital filing cabinet, it's about actively managing compliance, and the guide also emphasizes the importance of standardized verification processes. Why is that consistency so important?
Because it ensures that every single candidate, whether they're applying to be the principal or an after-school tutor, goes through the same rigorous qualification assessment. That means verifying their education, their credentials, checking their references, and completing those all-important background screenings. Having these standardized procedures in place protects your institution from legal risks, and it ensures a consistent level of qualification across the board.
Makes sense. And regular audits of those processes are a good idea too, just to make sure everything is running smoothly. What about continuing education requirements? That's a big part of maintaining credentials in education.
It is, and the guide makes a great point that tracking continuing education isn't just about checking boxes for compliance. It's a way to support the professional growth of your staff. Monitoring those requirements helps individuals maintain their certifications, and it can also reveal shared professional development needs across your team, which allows you to create those targeted training programs that are actually useful.
And these credentialing requirements apply to everyone, right? Including substitute and temporary staff.
No exceptions. Everyone needs to meet the same standards, whether they're permanent or temporary. If you're working with staffing agencies, part of your agreement should be that they provide all the documentation to verify that their candidates are fully compliant.
All right, let's talk about something that's always top of mind, cost-effective staffing solutions. The guide has a whole section on this, and I'm sure everyone listening is interested.
Of course. And the guide encourages us to think beyond just the salary when we're evaluating costs. It's about doing a total cost analysis.
Okay, break that down for us. What does that mean in the context of staffing?
It means looking at all the expenses associated with a particular hire, not just their pay. That includes recruitment advertising, interviewing, onboarding, training benefits, and even the administrative costs of managing their paperwork and compliance. Sometimes what seems like a more expensive option up front, like Investing in robust retention programs to reduce turnover or using staffing agencies for specialized roles can actually save you money in the long run.
That makes a lot of sense. The costs of constantly hiring and training new people can really add up. The guide also mentions resource sharing arrangements. How does that work in education?
Well, think about sharing highly specialized professionals across different schools or departments. Maybe it's a grant writer, a curriculum specialist, or even a therapist. You might also explore co-funding positions that aren't needed full-time by a single school or district. It's about collaborating to access those specialized skills without each individual school having to foot the entire bill.
And the guide brings up blended staffing models again here. How does that tie into cost effectiveness?
By combining your core permanent staff with those variable part-time and supplemental staff, you can tailor your workforce to meet your exact needs at any given time. You're not paying for full-time salaries and benefits when you don't need them, and you can bring in specialized help exactly when and where it's needed. It's efficient for your budget and for your service delivery.
Now, how can technology help us be more cost-effective with staffing?
Technology can play a big role here. The guide talks about analyzing your workflows and implementing tech solutions that can boost staff efficiency and maybe even reduce the number of staff you need for certain tasks. Things like using more efficient communication platforms, automating administrative tasks, and leveraging learning management systems that free up teachers' time for more direct interaction with students.
And of course, it's always worth exploring external funding options like grants and community partnerships to bring in additional resources.
Absolutely. The guide encourages that, but it also reminds us that those external funds need to align with your school's mission and be sustainable in the long term. They're not always a permanent solution.
So we've covered a lot of ground, but the guide stresses that this isn't a one-time thing. Quality assurance and continuous improvement are key when it comes to staffing.
You got it. Staffing strategies need to be evaluated and refined regularly to make sure they're actually helping you reach your goals and supporting student success.
And that includes having strong performance evaluation systems for everyone on your team, permanent, temporary agency staff, everyone.
Absolutely. Consistent standards and feedback are crucial for maintaining quality across the board. And it's not just about the supervisor's perspective. Getting input from colleagues and even students can give you a much more well-rounded understanding of individual and team performance.
And how do we know if our staffing decisions are truly effective? The guide talks about student outcome monitoring.
That's one of the most important indicators while a lot of factors contribute to student success. The quality and distribution of your teachers and support staff play a huge role. Looking at the relationship between staffing patterns and student outcomes, both academic and developmental, gives you valuable insights into what's working and where you might need to make adjustments.
And the guide recommends a regular formal assessment of your entire staffing model.
Right, you should be looking at vacancy trends, recruitment challenges, retention rates, and those overall performance indicators to make sure your approach is still aligned with your school's needs, your strategic goals, and the ever-changing world of education. It's all about continuous improvement.
And getting feedback from everyone, students, parents, staff, community at large can give you those outside perspectives that are so valuable.
Definitely, everyone has a unique viewpoint on how staffing impacts the school environment, and setting up systems to gather that feedback can uncover blind spots and lead to some great improvements.
So it's pretty clear that strategic staffing is about so much more than just filling open positions. It's a driving force behind educational excellence.
Couldn't agree more. It takes planning, building a flexible and multifaceted staffing system, paying close attention to credentials and compliance, being mindful of costs, and always striving for improvement.
So as you think about your own school or district and the unique challenges you face, what's one step you can take today to move towards a more strategic and resilient staffing model? The guide we've been discussing also mentions a bunch of resources for those who are looking for more in-depth guidance on developing and implementing their plans, so definitely check those out.
Great advice.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And to all of you listening, thanks for diving deep with us.